Welcome to Rogers TV special presentation. I'm your host, Consuela Bastrash, and today we're back in Salisbury at the Humanity Project Farm. We'll catch up with Charlie Burrell, the founder, and get some of the updates on what's going on here at the farm. So Charlie, it's nice to see you again.
Good to see you guys again.
It's been a few months since we've been here.
Yeah.
So tell us what's new and what's changed around the Humanity Project's Salisbury farm.
We've had a few of our guests leave, go on to continue on with their lives. We have a few new guests on the farm. We have a new baby cow, a couple new baby goats, we've got lots of baby pigs, and we just got our floor plans and our design for our whole big building back there. Now that we have that, we can start getting electrical contractors, plumbers, stuff like that, and figure out the cost of what it's going to cost to redo it. And then we'll put some apartments in it and start moving some of the people here from the bunkhouses into their own apartments. And then we'll grab more people off the streets and bring them here for the recovery.
Mm-hmm. So is that quite a large process? Once you get the floor plans, now you have to plan for electrical, plumbing, all that stuff. How big of a process is that to get started?
It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work, but I feel like we're 10 steps ahead now that we have the floor plans for our big building, you know. That's what kind of was slowing us down and stopping us, because we need to know do we need a sprinkler system in it? What do we need for insulation, a heating system? Now that we have that, we can get some actual answers and some true cost of what it's going to cost to redo it and move forward towards our next step. Mm-hmm. You know, it's hard, but it's no harder than the people that are out on the streets dying that don't want to be there. Right. You know, so for us, it's never a matter of giving up, because there's too many people out there who want help and who need the help. Mm-hmm. You know, we've lost too many people already. You know, hundreds of people have perished because of basically the drug epidemic in our city and what's going on. And I can guarantee you, not a lot of those people want to be out there, mm-hmm. but they're in a desperate situation and they're left in that desperate situation.
So are you finding now, because the economy is hitting all of us at this time, that's just a fact that we're dealing with, are you finding now that the need is growing even more quickly, or is it kind of stable?
So at the first of the month, when everybody got their checks and people got their old age, family allowance, stuff like that, we used to feed around 100, 125 people at the start of the month. We are feeding right now at the start of the month 200, and that's our minimum. And then the number just keeps going up as the month goes on and times get harder, right? So and that's the other thing. Only right now, approximately 27 to 30% of the people that we feed are experiencing homelessness, which means that 70 to 73% of those people that come on a daily basis are seniors on fixed incomes, families with children, or literally you will see people pulling up in their work trucks or getting out in their work uniforms who are getting out to get a meal because they can barely afford to keep a roof over their head with the cost of living. You know, it's hard times out there for a lot of people. And I think that's the one thing people need to understand, and I think some people are starting to understand that, because we're starting to push some of these people that should never be homeless mm-hmm. into homelessness. You know, when you're pricing out seniors out of housing and they're forced to go into a shelter, what are we doing here? You know, something needs to change. And unfortunately, that's the situation, is that it's hard times for a lot of people, and our numbers just keep growing. Mm-hmm. And they just keep growing and growing, because we're not doing enough to address the problem of housing or the lack of mental health or the lack of addiction services. Mm-hmm. You know, we have 84 people on a waiting list. 84 people on a waiting list. Could you imagine what it would be like if 84 people were here and not on the streets of Moncton getting the help they need? You know, and I think that's the power for change is within all of us.
So with that increased growth, so jumping from 100 to 200, that's a 50% increase. How are you guys managing the cost to now increase the food supplies and do that extra work?
Well, we do a lot of food recovery. So last year, I think we recovered somewhere, it was like 110, 120 tons of food that we recovered from businesses in the Moncton area that were throwing them out. The other thing is like you have our garden beds here, we have a garden back there, we have another potato garden down there. We're raising our own livestock. It's helping us cut our costs that way. You know, we've taken almost 25,000 pounds of pork off this farm and have brought it into town. That's helped us at our organization mm-hmm. feed people, as well as help other organizations that we've shared it with. Mm-hmm. You know, it's hard times, but how do you manage that?
Right.
You know, it's just day by day and trying the best you can.
And who's tending to the vegetables and the farm animals? Who's managing those responsibilities?
Different residents, so they all have
Residents.
like chores that they do, and some of them like feeding the animals every day. Some of them like watering the gardens. That's just depending on what you like to do, and trying to get people in the right spot so that they feel like they're part of helping the farm grow, and they're part of helping give back to feed the people that are still out there on the streets of Moncton. You know, this food, some of it goes here to feed everyone here, but some of it goes back to Moncton to feed their friends that are still out there struggling.
Right.
So it's a win-win.
And you mentioned earlier that now you've got the floor plans and you're getting the plumbing and the electrical and all that set up. Do you have kind of an estimate of the time frame of when you plan to start actually getting some work done on the building, or is that still kind of in the future?
Yeah, well, it's hard to get a time frame of what you want to do for work when you don't know how much it's going to cost. So right now I look at, you were here in May, we are 10 steps ahead of where we were when you were here in May. When we were in May, it was, you know, this is what we want to do with the building. We didn't even have floor plans.
Right.
It took a while, and now we got those. So if it was my way, I'd snap my fingers, and tomorrow that building would be done, and there'd be 50 tiny homes over there for people. So, but I do know, like, it's not a matter of if it's ever going to happen, it's just a matter of when it's going to happen. Because we'll keep working every day towards that goal until it does happen, you know, dollar by dollar, person by person.
And are you finding now, so prior to the pandemic, renovation and building materials weren't as expensive as they are now. So are you finding that there's quite a jump in cost now to even put up, like, the difference between a tiny home 4 years ago, let's say, to what it costs now? What's that increase looking like?
So we quoted a full-size tiny home with its own kitchen, bathroom, living room area 3 years ago, 4 years ago, and that building is over 3 times the cost now for us to build it than it was back then. You know, just with the cost of lumber, the cost of electrical material, plumbing, stuff like that, it's ridiculous.
And what were you thinking in terms of the number of new tiny homes that you'd like to put up? You mentioned 50, but is there a number that you have in mind of how many more you'd like to put in?
We don't know how many tiny homes we'll put over there, full-size ones, because it does depend on the area of land we have. Like, we want to put greenhouses, we want to put a solar field. Eventually, once we put a bunch of tiny homes over there, we're going to have to put a septic field for them. It depends on how much space that's going to take. So for me, we'll maximize the space to put as many as we can, because the more homes and housing that we have on this property means the more people that are not on our streets that are getting help they need.
And you mentioned earlier that there's a waiting list now of about 84 people, is that correct? So time frame wise, once you get onto a waiting list, is there an estimate of the time that it's going to take for you to be able to come to the property?
It's different for everybody. So some people you get to and they've already gotten into another program, thankfully. Or some people you get to and they're not ready at that time. So you could be, you know, let's say number 10 and move up to number 2 or number 3 in a couple days. You get some people who they might get into the detox center and then they're just like, I can't do this, and they decide no. Or you get some people who they'll end up going with family. So there's not really a time on how long it's going to take. It's just one by one, and we just keep moving up the list.
And I believe the last time we came here, you had 16 residents at that time, I think. How many residents do you have now, and are the same people that we had met the previous time we had come here, are they still here? How are they doing?
Some of the same people are here. You spoke with some of them today. Some of them, like I said, had moved on. We have one gentleman, he ended up, this summer his dad came to visit him. He ended up building his relationship with his dad, and he went to another province with him, you know, after he had 232 days sober. And then we have other residents, they've worked out other plans where they've decided. And then we've had a few that just went, you know, I can't do this, and something was calling them back. But the funny thing about that is everybody that has left because they thought they couldn't do it, within 2 days came back trying to come back to the farm.
Really?
Yeah, but again, they have to sign back up on the list because it's not fair for us to give somebody a second chance before we give somebody their first.
Right.
And there's a long list of people waiting, you know. But addiction's a hard battle. It's a hard battle, you know. But, and that's a good thing. Like, we have people here that were on methadone for 10 plus years that are now on nothing. You know, it took a couple months of working with them and with doctors and stuff like that, but they're actually clean. like sober. They're not replacing one drug for another. They're moving on with their lives and working out plans. You know, it's an individual basis for everybody because everybody here has individual needs.
And how many residents do you have in total here now?
21.
So 21 residents?
Yeah. And then we have 2 more coming this week.
And what's the longest that somebody has stayed at the farm in Salisbury?
So far, 15 months.
So 15 months?
Yeah. And then they were ready to go. Like I was telling you, they again, they went with family. But because for family, it's hard. It's hard for families to deal with addiction. And the first bridges that you burn are with your friends and your family. So when people come here and they get sober and they start getting clean, they start thinking about things, they'll sometimes reach out to their family and they start rebuilding those bridges. Like we've had many people that their kids come here to visit them, their parents come here, their aunts or uncles, and you start rebuilding those bridges because for a family member, it's not that you don't love your child or you don't love the member of your family, you don't know how to deal with it, and it's hard. It's really hard. So then when you see them clean and sober, of course you're happy for them, and that's the person that you remember, and that's the person you want to see. And then it starts rebuilding those bridges, you know, and then people start thinking differently, acting differently, working out different plans.
And you're also downtown, I believe, on St. George Street, is that correct?
Yep.
So being downtown in the kind of the main area of Moncton, are you noticing that there's an improvement in the drug situation, or is it getting worse? What's the situation like?
It's insane. It's insane. Last Friday, I was doing supper, and I was out front talking to everybody, and within an hour and a half, I seen 8 people hit the ground and overdose in one supper time. Like, it's insane. And 5 of those people were at the same exact time, all dropped. There was 3 paramedics sitting there Narcaning people and trying to get them going. And it's just because there was a bad batch going around or bad stuff or whatever it was, but it was insanity. Like, it was just like, boom, one person. 20 minutes later, boom, another person. Boom, another person. Boom, 5 people. It's like, what is going on here? And that's the crazy thing. Like, the amount of people that have died just in Moncton alone in the last, let's say 2 years, are more than that died from a virus when we shut everything down in our whole city and our province. Show me the amount of people that have died from overdoses. Show me the people that have died from COVID. And I guarantee you the overdoses are higher. But yet we called the other one a pandemic. So what do you call this? This is a problem. And this is a public health issue that needs to be addressed.
And what's the main drug that you're seeing that people are using?
Fentanyl.
Fentanyl?
Yeah, and meth. Meth and fentanyl are probably the 2 biggest ones for on the streets because they're cheap.
How addictive are those 2 drugs?
Oh, they're extremely addictive. They're extremely addictive, but it's not even just the addiction. It's the sickness. Like when it comes to fentanyl, more people are scared about getting sick than they are about dying and not breathing. You know, that's their worry because the sickness you get off it when you hit withdrawals. Like, I've seen people withdraw from opiates. I've seen people withdraw from cocaine. I've seen people withdraw from alcohol. I have never in my life seen anything like when people withdraw from fentanyl.
Really?
They can go into psychosis, they start hallucinating, they start hearing voices. It is absolutely crazy what happens to people when they come off of that. For some people, and it's brutal. Like, it's not easy. And the fear of being sick or that happening to you overrides the fear of, I'm going to take a puff and I'm going to drop on the ground and stop breathing. You know? It's sad. And that's the other thing. You know, I seen somebody the other day made a comment online. When you decide to use needles, you made a choice and you've got to live with that choice. I can guarantee you something right now. I've never met a single person in my life who started drugs by poking a needle in their arm. It didn't start that way.
And when it comes to healthcare, are you witnessing there's a bit of a stigma and a bit of a differential treatment when somebody is an addict, so they're not getting the proper care that they deserve to get?
100%.
Yeah.
100%. I've seen it happen so many times. And I'll tell you something. I took somebody to the hospital last week that was going into a psychosis. They passed their P test. They were not on drugs. They were here over a month. They were having a mental psychosis. I've seen the way some people treated them. Luckily, I was there as their advocate, so I could speak on their behalf. But then I seen other people who treated them like a human being and treated them with compassion and care. But I also get the other side of the coin that when Healthcare professionals see the same problem coming in, and people coming in, let's say, high and causing an issue. Well, when the next person comes in high and causing an issue, and then the next person comes in high and they're not causing an issue, you might treat them the same way that you treated the first two, because you're tired of it. You know, it's like in our city. Here's a big problem. Needles all over the ground in our city. There's needles everywhere. I see lots of people on Facebook and on social media complaining about it. But I don't see many people giving an hour of their time or donating $1 to help fix the problem. I believe wholeheartedly in harm reduction. But I don't think what's happening in Moncton is a safe and responsible way of doing harm reduction. And the way I'm going to explain that to you is this. They'll give somebody 200 needles. And then me and you go around the corner, we shoot up with 2 needles, get all high, we leave our packages there. This gentleman walks by, he sees 200 needles. He doesn't see 2 dirty needles, he sees 200 dirty needles. And what that does is it takes our community who had compassion and turns them into a community with anger. Because here's the thing, let me ask you a question. Do you see any pop bottles on the streets of Moncton? None, right? So if you can get 5 cents for every pop bottle, and you can take the time to get funding to give out 200, 300, 400,000 needles, why can't you get the funding to do a 5-cent return? Because not only if you had a 5-cent return on it, you wouldn't find a needle on the streets of Moncton.
Right. Isn't there a potential contamination issue?
Sure, and that's why you have to be safe about it. You know, they used to have a needle exchange where they give you 10 needles, you brought 10 back or whatever, and they could exchange them. It's pretty simple to tell. Fill up a canister, have an idea of how many needles roughly fit in there, and give them the money. There's ways of doing it. There's ways that are safer than contaminating our neighborhoods. So like cute little guys like this go stepping on them. Do you know what I mean? So like there's a good way of doing it, and there's a responsible way. And I think that's where we have to find the happy medium with our community, because we've turned a community into a community with anger.
Right.
You know, and they used to be compassionate, because I know a lot of people that used to support the homeless issue.
The people downtown right now, we're seeing a lot of people laying out just in like bags on the street and stuff. So what's causing that? Is there not enough beds at homeless shelters? Is there not enough access? Are people choosing not to go to shelters?
Shelters have become a permanent solution in our city, where they should have been a temporary solution, because you get people, and there's people that are here that were in the shelter system for 5-10 years. They lost hope. Where are you going? Every day is exactly the same. It's routine, you know? So you find a lot of people, like, we had one girl here, I'll tell you, we had one girl here. For the first 2.5 weeks, every day, she barricaded her door. She put her mini fridge, her dresser, her bed, everything up against her door. And she came to me and she told me, she's like, I've been barricading my door. I'm like, that's okay. She's like, no, I'm just telling you because last night's the first night I never did it. She's like, I knew I was safe. I stayed at your shelters before. I know pretty much everybody here. I have a lock on my door. She's like, but it was habit. Every night when I went to bed, I had to barricade wherever I was at so I wasn't raped or robbed or stabbed. That takes time to get that out of people. You know, they're in survival mode, but after you're doing that for years and years and years on end, it becomes normalized to you. That's the crazy part, when it becomes normal to you.
At this point, what could you suggest for people who are kind of looking at this from the outside and kind of being more judgmental than they are trying to contribute? What could you say to those people? I
wish everybody in this country, by law, had to donate 4 hours a month to volunteering somewhere, whether it's at the SPCA, soup kitchen, a homeless shelter, wherever it is, because I think if everybody went out there and took 4 hours off their keyboard while they're complaining on Facebook, and they went out and helped an organization in their city, one, they'd become a lot more educated on what's actually happening in their community, and two, they'd be a lot more productive on helping fix those issues. And that's what I think people need to do. You know, it's easy. Like I seen a post yesterday. It was at 2 schools, and there was people there that were homeless, and they were there with their carts, and there was a couple people laying out sleeping, and I seen people in the post going, you know, these drug addicts, these junkies, these this, and I looked through all the pictures. Nobody in those pictures was using drugs. Okay, we need to round them all up and put them out in a field somewhere and blah blah blah. We need to get them off the school. Okay, cool. We'll remove them from the school, but where are we putting them? Where are we putting them? You know, these short-term solutions to, I'm going to move you, like the city, like, you know, with bylaw, moving people around. I call it government hide and seek. You're going to move here. I'm going to come get you in a couple hours, move you over on this corner. When you get tired on that corner, I'm going to come find you. I'm moving you into this one. Oh, you're back here. Let's just keep playing this game and chasing people around, you know? It's that not in my backyard mentality. When really, if we cleaned up our own backyard and took care of the people that are in our backyard, you'd have a lot less of the problems that you see today.
For you guys, so you're doing a lot to now try to build up and expand. How are your fundraising efforts going for that?
Well, not as fast as I'd like, but it's day by day. You know, just keep working away, and the people that support you, the people that don't. And a lot of the people that don't support you because they don't understand what's going on. And again, I think that's why more people need to go donate a couple hours of your time so you can talk to some of these people, listen to some of these people, and understand what's going on and become more involved in your community. You know, if I have $200,000, that moves me ahead to getting that building done. But if I have $2 million, it moves us ahead a lot faster, and a lot more people start coming off those streets. You know, to me, it's like I said earlier, it's not a matter of if it's ever going to happen. It's when it's going to happen, because I know it's going to happen, because we won't give up. I have a good team of people around me. I have good residents here that believe in the firm and want this to succeed for everybody in the future to come here. You know, but it's just day by day.
And you mainly rely on donations, or do you get a bit of help from government funding from different branches of the government?
No, so we got funding to build these from the city, and then we got some funding from the province for like our nurses, doctors, stuff like that, staff. Other than that, it's all donations from the public and public support. You know, like we went 9 years with no support other than public support. And like it's like our food. Our food, it's businesses that give a hold of us and say, hey, I got some stuff, we're gonna throw it out. Do you want it? It's perfectly good. Because it's insane. People aren't, I'll tell you this, people aren't going hungry in the world because there isn't enough food. People are going hungry because too much food's being wasted. Because we throw it out for the stupidest reasons.
And do you find there's certain times of the year that get more challenging? Like we're kind of moving into fall now and then winter. Is it?
No, it's different challenges, different times of year. So in the summertime, you got to worry about people being dehydrated or passing out in the sun, stuff like that. In the wintertime, it's do you have hand warmers and socks and mittens and stuff like that? Are your feet wet? Like trench foot is a big one in the wintertime. You know, their feet get wet, they have nowhere to go, and their feet are wet for days. It starts to rot away at your feet. It's like, how do you keep your feet dry when your boots are wet? Even if I give them a new pair of socks and they put on dry socks, they put them in, their feet are wet again because they're still in wet boots. You know, in the summertime, it's the heat and the dehydration, and yeah, just trying to find a safe place to bunker down for the night.
What would you say to residents that feel it's a safety concern and we need to just move everybody out of Moncton and find it? Like, what would you say to those people that say things like that?
I think that, like I said, moving people along from one spot to the other is what got us in this position. It's not going to fix anything. You all need to buckle down, get your fingers dirty, and become involved in your community.
And how many hours are you and the volunteers putting in every day, every week, every month?
There's days like it's, I don't know, like a short day would be like 10 hours.
Oh, wow.
Like a long day is like 16, 17, you know, because I get here in the morning sometimes, and then I go do supper. And then after supper, I still got to do my social media, my messages. I got to do all that other stuff. That all needs to be answered and responded back to. So sometimes it's like 12 o'clock at night by the time I shut off my computer and go to bed. And I'm not the only one. Like from my family to the workers to the volunteers downtown, like they're committed, you know, because you have to put in the work if you want to see change. And I'm very blessed. I'm beyond blessed. Beyond. To have the team of people that I have around me who all believe in the same thing, and that's people helping people.